until very recently, my country, which was mentioned by several speakers today, thank you very much, was perceived mostly as a laboratory for Russian tactics, where they tried, tested different hybrid disinformation propaganda methods in order for later to project them to other countries. Now, after we had critical referendum in last year on European integration, and this September we had parliamentary elections, I think we should add the second part to this idea. So indeed, we continue to be the laboratory, the testing ground for all hybrid methods, but also Moldova became the place where some solutions how to resist were developed in real world, which is very helpful, and we are eager to share these solutions and practices with other countries. We learn from you, and we think we can contribute. And in December, my president, my son, was in Greece. She met Greek leaders. Director Athanasios Kosmopoulos was at the discussion, as well as Mr. National Security Advisor Thanos Dokos. And a big part of the interaction with Greek officials was about Moldovan experience. Our elections were not simple elections. Our elections were a true test of democracy under attack. Russia invested hundreds of millions of euros in trying to capture Moldova as a maximalistic objective, to take control of Moldova through elections, or as a minimum objective to discredit disrupt and discredit the process. They failed on most levels, in spite of huge amounts of money and efforts. Imagine 2% of Moldovan GDP, if you count how much, it's huge. But we resisted, and I think if we resisted Moldova, it's a good encouraging signal for other countries that you should fight and you should resist. But while resisting, I think we also extracted some lessons, which I'd gladly like to share with you. These are not my lessons. I spoke with our national security advisor yesterday. I followed presentations and I was meetings where this subject was discussed. So I think it's fair for me to, in this free manner, to share some of the key lessons we extract. And I think, in a nutshell, there are two notions that the biggest lesson, that exposure and prevention does work. And I start with exposure, We had a shock last year. In 2024, we had presidential elections combined with the EU referendum, and in spite all the polls were showing that there is a strong majority for European choice. In spite of this, the result was different. It was very close. But we uncovered that we had at least 140,000 votes which were bought. How we did it? Because we uncovered banking accounts for Moldovan citizens. Every month, $15 million to $20 million were put in this account. In Russian bank, and you had to take money electronically. And this affected the vote. And this was a shocking thing for us. I tell you more. On Monday, we conducted a checking of 2 planes coming from Moscow. And we discovered that $1 million in cash was brought by different individuals, intermediaries in Moldova to play the electoral processes. So the shock of 2024 referendum made us move fast. And from the very first day of last year, January 1st, we started preparations. And it paid off. I give you one example. And I'd like to use a slide. Look. We conducted a very thorough screening and scrutiny of our hardware, critical infrastructure. One of the most important was the Central Election Commission. And these are the results of distant disruption of server access hits on the day of elections. 840 million attempts trying to block the system. Imagine this. And if we would not have preventively screened with our trusted partners at hardware, found several months before elections in loopholes, and then worked day and night to close these loopholes. And as our president said publicly, we finished installing and testing the infrastructure and software just 2 days before elections. If this would not have happened, and if we would not have received valuable assistance from our partners, the system would be crashed. And the transparency and trustworthiness of the process would be compromised. What happens? Moldovan election results come first from small villages, 500, 700 voters. They count fast in rural areas. Usually, when the results come, first 2 hours, there is a plus 10, 15 artificial lead, perception lead for pro-Russian parties. Imagine what would happen if, when we started counting the results and showing them to the public, you'd first see the image of pro-Russian parties in the lead, and in the morning we would solve this problem, but centers would be stopped. We counted manually the votes and signals. It would lead to massive distrust to the system. Exposure. So prevention, it pays off because it's much cheaper to absorb, it's much cheaper to prevent this from happening than dealing with absorbing the cost. But for this, you have to work ahead of time preemptively. Exposure is a different area. We manage to infiltrate, not our special services, but news releases, civil society, to infiltrate Russian-run networks of hiding people for bribery, for disinformation, for creation of frauds. And we had journalists in this network. And ahead of elections, they showed very devastating, revealing investigations. Everybody could see what is going on. We put a face. Actually, I have to make a confession. Even here in Athens, as an ambassador, I uncovered, together with my colleagues, a network of fake observers trying to influence and discredit the process of voting in diaspora. Unbelievable, but true. There are at least 7 people who confessed on camera live. As a former journalist, I interviewed them live. These are massive views in Moldova on the election day. And when a person who stayed from 6 o'clock, 2 persons were staying in front of the polling station, in front of our embassy, and in Moldova, and making pictures and coordinating activities with other people inside so-called fake electoral monitors. And they on camera confessed that they were hired by Telegram. They don't know who hired them, but they are being paid well. And most interesting is that they are not voting because they are not Moldovan citizens. And one of them is from Transnistria. And 7 people, and they then looked at cameras, they got kicked. So, just an example. Why I'm saying this? Because efficient fight with hyper operations and with propaganda and disinformation requires whole society approach. It was being discussed here. It's not only for governmental institutions. You need to involve the entire society, media, organizations. And they have to work not based on, nobody told me to do this. I felt my civic responsibility. So we have to be united by shared values to do this. And only this way we can counteract what from the other side is being conducted on many levels. Priests, yes, priests, paid actors, singers, bloggers, influencers, and each of them reaches its own strata of society. So if the response is solely, exclusively governmental, you cannot penetrate and counteract. You need a whole society.